Final Fantasy is finally here, and while I haven't personally played any games in the series except for number 9, I have to admit that the Magic set itself is really well designed. And I want to share my thoughts on some interesting cards that I'm not really seeing anyone talk about. I mean, I get why everyone's freaking out over Vivi and Jumbo Cactar. I'm sure those cards will see plenty of play. But I went through the set and picked out 5 cards that I think will be seriously good in Commander despite not getting much buzz. Let's take a look. Starting at number 5, we've got SelfDestruct. For 1 generic and 1 red mana, SelfDestruct reads, target creature you control deals X damage to any other target and X damage to itself, where X is its power. SelfDestruct is another variation of a very popular Magic card, Fling. Showing up in 67,000 decks on EDH Rec, Fling is an instant spell that costs the same 1 generic and 1 red mana. It also deals damage equal to a creature's power to any target, but with one key difference. Instead of damaging itself the same amount, you must sacrifice that creature as part of Fling's cost. In most cases, the end result of these 2 spells is identical. Your creature dies but deals a bunch of damage on its way out. But functionally, these cards are very different, each with their own pros and cons. The biggest difference is that SelfDestruct does not sacrifice. This means that if you target an indestructible creature, or even just a creature with greater toughness than power, it will survive the damage from SelfDestruct. Cards that prevent non-combat damage to your creatures, like Mark of Asylum or Blessed Sanctuary, will also work here. That's a pretty huge upside. Alternatively, if your creature is removed in response to casting SelfDestruct, your entire spell fizzles, making it much easier to counter. Speaking of countering spells, if someone plays a counterspell on your SelfDestruct, you get to keep your creature as normal. If someone counters your Fling, well, too bad, your creature is already dead. SelfDestruct also synergizes extremely well with Lifelink, as the creature itself is dealing the damage. In comparison, Fling is dealing the damage, meaning Lifelink does nothing. All in all, I think SelfDestruct compares very favorably to Fling. Its unique play patterns outweigh its weaknesses, and I definitely plan on running it in a few of my decks. Next up at number 4, we've got Ninja's Blades. Ninja's Blades is an artifact equipment spell that costs 2 generic and 1 black mana. It has Job Select, which is basically another variation of Living Weapon, in that when this equipment enters, you create a 1/1 colorless hero creature token and then attach this equipment to it. Ninja's Blades gives the equipped creature +1/+1, turns it into a ninja in addition to its other types, and adds the following ability. Whenever this creature deals combat damage to a player, draw a card, then discard a card. That player loses life equal to the discarded card's mana value. It also has an equip cost of 2, which is randomly given the name of Mutsu no Kami, which, according to Google, is an honorary title given to master swordsmiths by the Imperial Court. Either way, this card is doing essentially 2 things. First, it turns a creature into a ninja. And second, it turns a draw-discard effect into burn. It actually reminds me a bit of Yuriko, and it's probably a slam dunk in that deck, as you want ninjas, you want unblockable creatures, and you want high mana value stuff to burn the table. But even outside of a dedicated ninja deck, I think this card is pretty good. I really like it in a Storev Devkarin Lich deck. It shouldn't be hard to get through for damage with Storev, and while you can't get back a creature discarded to Ninja Blades that turn, it grabs any other creature from your graveyard, deals some damage, and throws another creature into your graveyard for next turn. Not bad. I think a lot of graveyard decks may be interested in this card, especially if your commander has flying. Francisco Foul Marauder, Zoraline Cosmos Caller, Amzu Swarm's Hunger, Drana the Last Blood Chief. These kind of commanders can easily get in for damage to take advantage of Ninja's Blades. This equipment gets even better if you're in a mana value matters theme. Commanders like the infamous Cruel Claw, Vile Smasher the Fierce, Megatron Tyrant, or maybe Shadow Mysterious Assassin, another new Final Fantasy card, are all possible candidates. Speaking of Final Fantasy commanders, I think Golbez Crystal Collector will be very interested in this card. Ninja's Blades fills your graveyard, is an artifact, and cares about mana value. I'm a fan. Honestly, the more I think about this card, the more I realize it could slot into a lot of decks. Definitely one to keep your eye on. But let's move on to number 3. I'm a huge fan of Deadly Embrace. Deadly Embrace is a 5-mana sorcery spell that reads, destroy target creature an opponent controls, then draw a card for each creature that died this turn. At its floor, this looks like an expensive and slow removal spell that will likely replace itself. But at its ceiling, this is an incredible draw spell that incidentally removes a creature. And I think that's key to understanding how to use this card. Despite having the words destroy target creature on it, this is not a removal spell. This is first and foremost a draw spell. Now your first thought might be to pair this with a board wipe to clear the entire board and draw an obscene amount of cards. But that doesn't work, as Deadly Embrace requires a target to be cast, and if you've just wiped the board, your opponents are unlikely to have anything in play that you can target. Plus, we already have that card, Decree of Pain. It costs 8 mana and is an excellent board wipe. Deadly Embrace has a different use case, fitting better in decks that are good at killing creatures without wiping the board. A couple strategies come to mind. First, Aristocrat token decks. If you've got a deck that's already built around creating and sacrificing token, this is a slam dunk. Take a look at Caesar Legion's Emperor, for example. Let's say you have a single token in play. You attack with it, then sacrifice it to make 2 attacking tokens. Sadly, both your tokens die in combat. Second main phase, you then cast Deadly Embrace, destroying a problematic creature and drawing 4 cards. That's a good rate and required almost 0 setup. It's not hard to imagine a more complex board state with a dozen or more tokens and a sack outlet in play that lets you instead draw 10 or more cards while destroying an opponent's creature. For 5 mana, that's absolutely worth it. I also think this card will fit great in any deck with on-board creature removal. Maybe a deck built around Pestilence or Ping effects that can clear out all of the small creatures for a couple of mana before casting this to destroy a bigger threat and draw several cards. Or maybe a deck built around repeatable Edict effects. My point is, there are a lot of decks that can really take advantage of a card like this. Coming in at number 2, I definitely want to talk about Grahatia, the uncommon version. For 4 generic and 1 white mana, Grahatia is a legendary cat archer with 3 power and 5 toughness. It has 2 abilities, Reach and the Elegant Eye, which reads, whenever one or more other creatures and or artifacts you control die, draw a card. This ability triggers only once each turn. This effect is so easy to abuse. Yes, I know it dies to Doomblade, but I mean, so do powerhouse cards like Chulainn Teller of Tales, which also cost 5 mana. Now, I'm not trying to say that this card is better than Chulainn, but in the right deck, it could draw you just as many cards. And all you have to do is have artifacts or creatures to sacrifice. That is so easy. Every Aristocrat deck is going to love this card. Imagine you have something like Ophiomancer and a sack outlet in play. That lets you draw 4 cards every turn cycle for free. And this is even easier with artifacts that sacrifice themselves. Any deck built around treasure tokens in white will want this card. I mean, Smothering Tithe is a very popular card that pairs perfectly with Grahatia. Even outside of treasures, Grahatia is amazing with blood tokens, food tokens, clue tokens, and more. Grahatia actually reminds me a bit of Morbid Opportunist, granted it only triggers off of your permanents, not anything on the board. Even so, I wouldn't be surprised if this card sees a similar amount of play. Finally, we come to number 1, Ultimatia Time Sorceress. And this may come as a surprise, but I think Ultimatia is a very interesting card. For 3 generic, 1 blue and 1 black mana, Ultimatia is a 4/5 human warlock with 2 abilities. First, whenever Ultimatia enters or attacks, surveil 2. Then, at the beginning of your end step, you may pay 4 generic, 2 blue and 2 black mana, and exile 8 cards from your graveyard to transform Ultimatia. Her flip side is a 7/7 Nightmare Warlock with another 2 abilities, Menace and Time Compression, which reads, when this creature transforms into Ultimatia Omnipotent, take an extra turn after this one. Now, Ultimatia might not be the flashiest card in Final Fantasy, but it fits in more decks than you might think. First, the Surveil on ETB and Attack make it a great fit in any deck built around the Surveil mechanic. In fact, I'd say Ultimatia is one of the best Surveil commanders ever printed. After all, when building around a mechanic, I typically prefer to have a guaranteed trigger in my command zone, compared to a payoff card like Mirko Obsessive Theorist. Not to mention, her Surveil trigger requires 0 setup, making payoffs like Disinformation Campaign better than ever. Ultimatia could also find a home in any graveyard deck. Even without any Surveil synergies, Ultimatia is an imposing 4/5 body that can improve the quality of your draws while filling your graveyard. Commanders like Sidisi, Brood Tyrant, or Arami of the Dead Tide may be interested. Ultimatia could also work in a top deck manipulation theme, alongside cards like Caustic Bronco or Mobile Homestead. And that's to say nothing of Ultimatia's backside. Wait, that sounds terrible. And then there's Ultimatia's flip ability, which is certainly not nothing. Whether or not you're building around extra turns, having one in your back pocket is definitely an upside that can help you close out a game when needed. As a human with a transform ability, you can also cheat Ultimatia's transform cost with Moon Mist. I'm not sure who the commander would be, but a deck full of these transforming humans would certainly be very interesting. All in all, I think Ultimatia is a solid commander card that will be largely undervalued by many players. In fact, not being a kill on sight threat is another reason to run this card. And that's my list. 5 cards from Final Fantasy that I'm interested in playing in my decks. But what do you think? Let me know what cards I missed in the comments below, and please like and subscribe to help my channel grow.